So it is 2021 and you might be thinking about, making that or building that great next website that you might have to design or develop for your clients, or, for the startup that you're working with, or even you want to, put your own ideas out there and create a website to grow your new business. And you're thinking about whether you should go for WordPress, which, has been going on the internet for many years, and it's back in, I think it's something like 40% of the internet right now, and it has all these different plugins and all these different open source developers that are doing work on it. Or you should go with Webflow, which gives you the ability to to create everything you have in mind, but it might not be powering about 40% of the web yet, but it might soon. So what choice will you make? Well, in this video I'm going to tell you what my choice would be if I were you, so if you're interested, stay tuned. What's going on, guys? My name is Leopoldo Perella, and if you're new to the channel, I do videos about web design, UX design, and the overall design process, as well as share with you some tips, ideas, and experiences that I am going through as I build my design studio. But on today's video, it is all about choosing WordPress or Webflow and seeing which one is the right one for you. So I think in order to be able to understand or to be able to get an answer for this, we sort of have to think about it in a few ways. And I know there's a lot of personal preferences for people who probably did WordPress for many years. They are finding it difficult to move with Webflow, and they talk about, all these different things that you cannot do with Webflow. And then there's a lot of people who are now getting into Webflow. Maybe it's the first time they are starting to build websites, that are finding WordPress to be really difficult and really challenging for them to be able to create their ideas into actual websites. And then, of course, you have the developers who are probably wondering, why would you choose any of these platforms when you can create your own, JavaScript framework to run your websites, and it's going to make it even better. They can create their own CMS libraries, their own CMS platform, so they do not need any of this. Let's get started with my list, which I created here so that we can get a much better answer that's quite clear for you to choose your next project. So the first thing I have here is talking about the design that we are going to be creating. And one of the things I always recommend for you to do is to design your designs before you get into web development. And this can either be with WordPress or Webflow, because what you want to do with your designs is to sort of look at them and see, one, how they are interacting, the movements of different elements, how they are placed on the website, but also what sort of things are going to be dynamic and what things are going to be static. And if you're not familiar with these two terms, dynamic means that sort of like it's pulling information from somewhere else, most likely from a database, which is what happens with WordPress and also with Webflow. And static pages are just pages where you sort of just put content, but it's not really pulling it from anywhere else. So now that you have your designs, you sort of have to think about, like, okay, so how many different collections, CMS collections am I going to need? Am I going to need one for my team members? Am I going to need one for my projects? Am I going to need one for, my different client logos? Or are we also going to need something like a blog where we're going to be posting content on a consistent basis? Now you can do this with both platforms. With one, WordPress, you're going to need a plugin. You're going to need something like SCF, I believe, is Advanced Custom Fields. Or if you're a developer, with WordPress, you're going to need a plugin to be able to create this, or you can code it. If you're looking for the plugin, I believe it's called Advanced Custom Fields, and it's sort of going to allow you to create those different options that you see in the left navigation of your WordPress dashboard. But then you're also going to need something like Elementor or Divi or another page builder to be able to pull dynamic content to your web pages and to also create the design you need. However, if we look now to do this in Webflow, you actually don't need any plugins because everything is built already on the platform. So if you go to Webflow and you click to create a new CMS collections, you can create your collection. I think you're going to need a paid membership for this, or a subscription, which I'm going to talk about in one of the other points, but I think it's something that you should invest in. And here you're going to be able to do everything that you need to do with your CMS collections and link them to different pages, create different pages for all your different CMS collections without a plugin. Which also leads me to the next point, which is how much development freedom do you actually want to have when it comes to building your next website, your web app, even a dashboard, which you can do with Webflow. And the reason why I say this is because even though with Elementor and Divi we are able to do a lot of things, we are still very limited to what we can do with it, with the different layouts we can build, unless you actually know how to code. And with Divi and Elementor, they also add their own CSS classes, which sometimes can throw off your designs, because unless you know how to go and inspect these websites and be able to edit this CSS and understand the CSS that you are editing, your website might even break sometimes, or it might not be able to achieve the look that you want. With Webflow, even though a lot of people do think about it like, a drag and drop tool, like a website builder, it goes a bit more beyond that, because sometimes with Webflow, what I found is that you actually need to understand how your browser works, how CSS, HTML, and JavaScript work, and how you can make them work together. Unlike in WordPress, where a lot of time people just go ahead to design templates, they just sort of like, buy a template and sort of customize it, or they use it actually as a drag and drop. So they just, you get something from Elementor's elements and you drop them into your page, and this way you can build the page that you wanted, which both works. There's nothing wrong about, using Elementor's drag and drop tools versus, going ahead with Webflow. And then the next thing that you have to think about is sort of like, what features are you going to need on this website? What tools are you going to have to implement in this website? Are you building a membership tool? Are you looking to be able to generate leads or something like that with your website? Because with WordPress, I think you have so many different plugins that sometimes it's actually overwhelming to see like, okay, well, which one should I choose from? And now, as most plugins are becoming paid plugins, you also have the safety with WordPress that, it's going to be secure. You're not going to be worrying about a new plugin crashing their website or, getting hacked because it was a free plugin that, maybe a lot of people have been trying to edit. And that a lot of these solutions that you might be looking for have already been built. Now with Webflow, we don't have plugins per se. However, we have integrations which allow you to pretty much build anything that you can build in WordPress. You can actually just go over to WordPress plugins that you're trying to download and just see if there's something for Webflow. Right now, most likely if there's anything you're trying to build, there will be one. The next thing that we have to keep in mind is the cost of building a website, because a lot of time people go with WordPress because things seems to be a lot more in the cheaper side. With the hosting, with the plugins and whatnot. Some plugins are free, some are not. But then when they think about Webflow, they think about, you have to pay for hosting with Webflow, which for some reason people think is a bit expensive, which it really isn't. But let's sort of try to break that down now, because let's say we're going with WordPress. So first of all, you're going to need a good hosting account, which if you choose something like SiteGround, it might be like $89 for like a basic one website hosting account. Or if you might need some more power, which most likely these days you might have to pay about $100+ to be able to get this. The next thing you need with WordPress will be something like Divi or something like Elementor to be able to give you the ability to design the design that you have created on Adobe XD, Sketch, or whatever design tool you're using. And this can be anything from, I believe, probably, let's say $100 to $999 if you're going with Elementor right now. So you have these two things already. Now you also have to think about the plugins, because a lot of plugins, when they are free, they're very limiting. So what's going to happen now is that you're going to have to pay for some plugins. Most likely you're going to have to pay for security plugin licenses. You're going to have to pay for, other different plugins that you might need, sometimes 3 to 5 plugins. Now, if you're also working on something like a membership site, you're also going to have to buy some licenses. So if you think about the cost right now, you might be about $500, $600 just for this website to be able to be functional and to be able to be hosted somewhere. Now, if we go over to Webflow, you're going to have to pay for a CMS hosting account, but this hosting account also has a CDN, which is Fastly, I believe. And this is like extremely fast. And if you were to choose Fastly for your hosting servers on a monthly basis, on its own, not with Webflow, you would be paying something about $50 US every month for like a basic usage. So that already tells you like how much cheaper Webflow hosting for the whole year is. And with Webflow now, you don't have to think about, you know, choosing web plugins or theme builders or anything like that, because everything is already built into it. You also have to think about what you're going to be connecting your website with. Is it going to be connected with a third party so that you can create a membership website or run an app or run sort of like a dashboard on your website? Also going to have to buy a license for something like Zapier that is going to allow you to really connect your website with everything else that you can ever think of and be able to do all sort of things that you probably never imagined you could. And I think that's about it, because you don't have to worry about security plugins, you don't have to worry about caching plugins or anything like that you might need in WordPress. And then the last thing that we have to think about cost, and this is not just for you as a developer but also for your client, is the maintenance of the website. If we build something with WordPress, you know, you're going to have to get someone to help you maintain this website. This is to keep plugins up to date and to keep everything up to date, whether it's WordPress, your theme that you have created, or even, you know, if you're using Divi, you need to keep this up to date. If you're using Elementor, you're also going to have to keep this up to date, as well as all the other plugins. Whereas with Webflow, well, we just don't have to worry about that anymore. All the security is taken care of, so you can just, you know, continue building the website. And then I think my last point will be about, you know, ease of mind, because sometimes when we build WordPress websites, they might be amazing. You know, we use Elementor to build a website, and it's like an amazing tool that allows you to really just create whatever you want into WordPress with a few other plugins. You can get anything you want, literally. But when you go into this group chats on Facebook and whatnot, you start to see how many people are actually having problems with Elementor, how many times it crashes, how many times their website just like dies because an Elementor update was not right or did not work with one of the plugins they had. And with Divi it's the exact same thing. With pretty much anything, any page builder will be the same thing. Whereas with Webflow, you don't have to worry about that anymore. All you have to worry is about constantly creating and improving your website. So for these reasons and many more, I will say that if you're going to build a website in 2021, whether it is for your next startup or for your clients or for a business that you're trying to put out there, I would choose Webflow. So even though the learning curve might be different for Webflow than it is for WordPress, because WordPress has been there for so many years and so many people have created content to show you how to use WordPress, with Webflow you're going to have all the resources you need. And sometimes if you have a problem that you can't solve, literally just go on Google or YouTube, type it, and you will find an answer. So the question for you guys is, will you choose Webflow or will you choose WordPress? And if you are a person who mainly does Webflow websites, I sort of want you to think about with an open mind if you would ever choose WordPress to do a website, or why not. And if you are a WordPress developer, I also want you to think with an open mind of why wouldn't you try Webflow to build your next website. So comment below, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your answers and hopefully creating a conversation out of this. And if you have liked this video, make sure to hit the like button and the bell button so when I post another video you get a notification, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can help me grow this channel, and I will see you again in the next video.